Distribution provided by Cloud Sigma, the cloud that adapts to you. Visit cloudsigma.com/thisweekin for a free $200 credit.
Today's episode of This Week in Startups is brought to you by Sourcebits. Visit sourcebits.com to begin your mobile app development journey. And by Igloo, an intranet you'll actually like. Visit igloosoftware.com/thisweekin for a chance to win a $150 iTunes gift card.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Calacanis. Today on This Week in Startups, we've got an amazing guest. Dalton Caldwell is with me. He is a serial entrepreneur, and he is a leading thinker in the social space, and he's got an amazing new product that's captured the imagination of the industry called app.net, and we're going to get into it today and talk about Facebook, Twitter, and the future of social, which may just be app.net.
What it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money and defeat you. Yeah. Money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money and defeat you.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Calacanis. We are here at AngelPad in San Francisco. I am busting my ass for you guys, trying to get the best interviews. You tell me on Twitter with the hashtag #TWiST who you want on the show, and then I get on a plane, I wake my sorry ass up at 6 in the morning like I did, completely tired, and my flight is canceled, but I do it for you guys and for me because I learned so much from the program. Today we're going to have an amazing experience. I've got a serial entrepreneur who's gotten his ass kicked ass, raised a bunch of money through crowdfunding, and is literally reinventing the way we think about social networks and the social space, and also building APIs. It's going to be an amazing episode. Dalton Caldwell of app.net is with us. But before we get to Dalton, who's going to be an amazing guest, I want to tell you about an amazing product. Igloo software is an intranet you will actually use. How do I know this? Because we actually use this intranet here at thisweekin.com. And we use it very simply to do calendaring and to share files with our partners, like sponsors of the show and artwork. Here, I'll show you today. We keep our group calendar in here of all the pre-tapes we're doing, of all the showings, and we can have discussions around this. It's really very well done intranet software, and it's, of course, secure, so you can use it in a business context, fully hosted and managed in the cloud. And all the shooting and filming and all of our equipment, we keep all that stored in the system, so we're never wondering, like, is that in a Google Doc or is it on the Dropbox folder? It could be in all these different places. We've now got everything centralized on the Igloo software system. Follow at Igloo Software and go to igloosoftware.com/thisweekin, and you'll get a free 30-day trial, and you'll be entered into a contest to get a free iPad mini. So go ahead and start that trial. Hey, and interesting companies, IDC, Deloitte, NetApp, BlackBerry, Hospice, they all use Igloo software, and you will love it. Bring your team in from the cold by getting inside the Igloo. That's a pretty good catchphrase. I like that. Hey, listen, Dalton, we've known each other for a while. I don't know how long, but probably closer to a decade than
8 years.
Yeah, getting close on a decade now. And I met you. You were running Imeem.
Yeah.
Which was what?
Imeem was the social music service. So it was a free music streaming site that was ad supported.
There you go. And this was in 2004 you launched it, or?
I started the company in late 2003, and it went through several early iterations and pivots, and we only got real traction in probably 2005, 2006 is when it took off.
Which is right around the time YouTube was taking off.
Yeah.
And a lot of people sort of correlated those two, YouTube video, Imeem music, and you had this crazy idea to socialize music, and it grew incredibly fast. I think it became one of the top 100 sites.
Yeah, it got to Alexa 75.
That's extraordinary. And that's globally or United States?
Globally.
I mean,
it was pretty
just
big.
To give people an idea, 40, 50, 60 million uniques?
Yeah, so the website itself had about 30 million uniques, 26 million registered users, and then we had our widgets, which at the time, this dates us, but were all over Myspace. And so we were reaching over 100 million uniques a month. We were playing music to over 100 million unique people a month, which at the time I calculated to be 8% of the internet saw an Imeem widget in a month.
That was amazing. And you really started to understand social, I think, from that experience. What did you learn at that time about social that other people really didn't know. And to give people some context, I don't think Facebook was launched or was about to launch.
It was out. It was just college only.
College
it was
only,
on
right.
our radar, but it was like at the time the MySpace guys scoffed at it because it was like, oh well, those college kids like it, but
Yeah.
we have the older people or something.
we have the goods. We have
20s.
10 times as many people.
Yeah, that was the
Yeah.
conventional wisdom.
Friendster had died.
Yeah.
MySpace was surging.
It was so
Pages
big.
were
It was number
ridiculous.
one. It was Alexa 1.
It became Alexa number one. They had over 100 million uniques, I think, at the
Yeah.
peak, and billions of page. I mean, they were a page view machine.
Yep.
And what do you think they got wrong? I mean, they obviously got a lot right. So what did they get right? What did they get wrong?
I mean, I think it all came down to innovation. And I know this is what people usually say, but to drill down to it, they did things that were kind of user hostile to drive page views. Like remember to log in or log out, there were all those extraneous clicks. You'd have to
Yeah,
do
I
as a
do
user.
remember that. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
logging in was like 2 extra clicks.
It's because they wanted to show you that extra ad unit, which was a premium ad unit.
Right. Everybody had to log in every time. Like, it
Yeah.
wouldn't save your login.
it wouldn't.
It would like you log you out.
Yeah. So there was a lot of user hostile things they did, and there were a lot of things that they didn't do to iterate on the product as fast as they could. They did a huge rewrite, and rewrites are good sometimes, but it wasn't a user-facing rewrite. It was just rewriting the back end.
Right.
And I don't think their belief was that network effects were everything,
Right.
and that technology didn't matter. Do you know what I mean? Like the software didn't matter.
Yeah, it was
maybe someone else has a
secondary
better
to-
mousetrap, but who cares? We have all the users.
Right.
And I think that was the...
And that's wrong. Why? Why is that wrong?
It's been disproven so many times,
Right.
I mean, Digg, Friendster itself.
Right.
There's all these examples of companies that get massive network effects, and that we feel are unstoppable. Like in the press, think
Yeah.
about the things that have been written about all these companies.
Yeah, MySpace is a juggernaut. It's changing everything. It's going to
Yeah, no
destroy
one's gonna
MTV.
Yep, exactly.
Roll.
Oh, and with Fox, they have all the IP for movie tie-ins. Remember there were all
Right.
these television show tie-ins.
Sure.
But we've seen things that look unstoppable, like the network effects can go the other way.
Do
you know what I
so
mean?
as quickly as you can go up, it can accelerate the downfall.
I think so. I mean, we've seen it, right?
Right.
Like,
And it seems
have
to be
no better
with
way
Digg that happened.
Yeah.
And why do you think Digg unraveled so fast? What was the critical mistake? I mean, we're all friends of Kevin Rose, obviously,
Yeah.
brilliant guy, but there was some hard lessons there, and he talked about them on the show. But what do you think as an observer? What do you think the crack was?
They changed the core user experience, and sometimes you can do that and get away with it, right? Like newsfeed or something. Like sometimes you can really completely radically change your product.
Like when Facebook changed the news feed.
Right, and
but
that
people
worked.
were protesting outside
They
their
didn't like
offices.
it, yeah.
People
You're right.
hated it. They literally, it's like 10 people, but
Yeah,
somebody
you're right.
protested that, oh my God, this fact that you can put stuff on my feed, or
Yeah,
now
I
my
agree with that.
parents can see what you put on my feed. It was like sort of different experience, but they went with it.
So they changed the core product.
Right.
Some would argue it was for monetization reasons, and it didn't go over too well. And again, that started it wasn't like it just evaporated overnight. It just started the downward trend. And once you're on that, it's pretty hard to break out of it.
You know, Imeem had this incredible rise, but the music industry came in, and just like they threatened to shut down YouTube and destroy it, they did actually succeed in killing Imeem. Is it the music industry that killed it?
Look, it's too much of a cop-out to say, oh, it's not our fault the music industry did it. It just it created an untenable situation where the amount that we had to monetize and the amount of changes we had to make to the user experience were detrimental to the long-term health of the company. And the other issue is, even if you can dodge those two bullets somehow, which is questionable, because the deals are up for renewal every year or two, you don't actually own your business per se. Like if you only have 3 content owners,
Right.
and they supply all of your content, and they can change the rates. This is like what Netflix is going through.
Right.
The thing with Netflix is users don't expect them to have every single network channel.
Right. If they don't have Bob Dylan or Coldplay, it's not the end of the world. People are like, well, there's enough here that I can find a 2-hour experience that's good.
Yeah, Netflix has trained us to not expect all of the TV to be there.
Right.
But when you're using Spotify or when you're using Imeem or using one of these services, if they're missing like a huge percentage of the catalog, you get annoyed.
Right.
And so the users, that's why I'd argue music services are harder from a licensing perspective.
Are they impossible? I mean, you look at Pandora right now, and it feels like at any moment in time, Pandora could end. And they're constantly raising the prices that Pandora has to pay for the streams. I think they pay 50, 60% of every dollar to the music industry. And like you're saying, these deals are low single digits. The music industry is not stupid. I mean, in fact, they're incredibly savvy.
Yeah.
In
what's
negotiations.
fascinating about Pandora is It's actually congressionally mandated. They don't even do deals. It's part of the DMCA. Internet radio is a statute. It's a sub point of the DMCA.
Right.
And every few years, that rate gets renegotiated on market effects. And so Pandora has lobbyists and the industry has lobbyists, and they're actually influencing Congress to try to get them not to raise the rate and in fact to lower the rate. And so
why is Congress, I don't know if you know the whole history of it, but why does Congress need to be involved in this?
So I'll try to keep, I actually do know, I'll try to keep it short. There was no legal way to do web radio in like 96, 97.
Right.
Like if you ran an internet radio station,
it was
illegal. It wasn't illegal, it was just not, it was gray. Like there was no this is illegal or this is legal, it was just
gray.
Yeah, it wasn't clear. And so as part of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, they created a whole definition of internet radio and rates and a definition of what is and isn't legal, as well as a body that you pay money to and that disperses it to labels called Sound Exchange.
Right.
So that's why Congress got involved, is because it was in like the Wild West where it wasn't clear if it was legal or not.
Interesting. And because they had done the airwaves, I guess it made sense.
Yeah, that and airwave stuff is all covered. Like laws show what is and isn't legal on terrestrial
so sort
radio.
of a historical thing. And so how do you, and we'll get to app.net next, obviously, which is getting phenomenal interest from folks, but just wrapping up the Imeem, that must have been personally hard for you to put in 5-6 years worth of work, build the 75th largest site in the world, and then have it just stop.
Yeah, it was really hard.
What was it like? What's it like? I mean, what is it like in those 2 or 3 months when you busted your ass, you told the team you're going to change the world, and then you realize there's absolutely no way to solve the problem? It's like a Kobayashi Maru, from Star Trek. Like, this is an unwinnable situation.
Yeah,
like,
it was.
we're
It was
going
unwinnable.
to have to crash the boat. We're going to have to crash into the Klingon ships or something, right? It's like you have to just kill yourself. Like, it's corporate seppuku. What is that like for a CEO founder?
When you spend that much time on something and you're that personally invested in the outcome of it, I think you take that on psychologically, like pretty personally.
Right.
Like it was hard for me to separate that from like my own identity, right?
Right.
So, yeah, like
you were Imeem. You're the Imeem guy.
Yeah.
Right.
So
every party you go to, every day you wake up, you're running Imeem, and then all of a sudden you can't solve the problem. It's it's an outside factor.
I had to reach the point psychologically where I knew that was the right thing to do. Like, I had to believe that it was unwinnable. Like, I got to the point where I'm like, yeah, like it's time.
Right.
Like, like when you have a pet that's sick or something, like, when it's time, like,
it's time.
Okay, like
this animal's in pain.
Yeah. So
wow, that's an incredible analogy. It's that painful. In a way.
It was like, well, I remember hitting the button to redirect the site to MySpace, to this landing page.
Wow.
And that was it. Like,
but in a way,
it was gone.
It has to be a great relief for you to be able to close that chapter. At what point did it go from being extremely painful to being like resolution? I can move on to my next chapter of my life. How long did that take between those two moments?
I don't think that there was a moment in time. It was more of just, it became less and less consciously painful. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like, oh yeah, today everything's cool, I'm going to start working on new things.
In a way, like death.
Yeah, it took, so I can't say, oh, there was this date when everything was great.
Right.
It actually took me quite a bit of time to make sense of what it meant, and I still am, frankly.
Yeah. I mean, because it was worth hundreds of millions of dollars, probably.
That's correct. Yeah.
And you were considered like you and Zuckerberg, same sentence, no problem. You and those guys, you were a genius of social, and then you get your ass kicked, which I've been through myself.
Yeah, we all have, and that's part of what makes it like
insane.
This cycle. No, it's just like one of the reasons that I'm able to do this, and I try not to take it seriously, is when you go from cool to uncool so many times, you start to realize that this is just
the nature of it,
and like you're the same person.
Right. So it's like you go from being like, oh, you're a genius, that's the Imeem guy, to, oh, that's the Imeem guy. Oh, that's the Mahalo guy. Whoa, he's changing everything. He's taking on Google, human-powered search, and like, oh, that didn't work. And to update. Like, you have to ride those things out. And psychologically, it's trying.
I think at the end of the day, though, I like to believe it makes you better, because when you believe your own press, either way, it's bad.
Yeah.
On the good side and on the bad side. And it's pretty easy to see who believes their own press. And I don't necessarily think that that's good for their psychological health.
Right, because the press is a magnifier.
Yeah.
Both ways. Like right now, Mark Pincus is just like the worst human being on the planet, and he was the biggest genius ever.
Yeah.
All in the span of 12 months.
Yep.
You know, like, it's unbelievable psychological pressure. But I guess after you've gotten your ass kicked and been the hero a couple of times, you realize we can just hit the reset button as entrepreneurs anytime we want.
Yeah, and you wonder if it's worth it or not, but that's a whole different topic.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic too. Like, is it worth the psychological damage that you went through for Imeem?
I mean, whatever. I don't want to, like, the last thing I want to do is feel sorry for myself. Whatever, it was fun. Like,
yeah,
a lot of people would kill to be able to do that stuff. So that's why I'm trying not to, like, is it worth, like, how many more times can I sign up for that tour of duty again? You know?
It's like hashtag first world problem.
That's right.
Like, I get the chance to take unlimited swings at the bat.
Yeah.
Or relatively unlimited swings at the bat as a seasoned entrepreneur. I know when Imeem shut down, the first thing I did was email you and tell you, when's the next thing that I can invest in that Dalton's going to do, right? You must have had a lot of those emails, right?
Yeah, it was good. And that was what felt good, is at least knowing that, like, didn't get, like, kicked out of town or something.
Right. In fact, it's almost like when you've gotten those scars, it's almost like a rite of passage, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
we've all been, anybody who's in the game, if you're not getting your ass kicked some percentage of the time, you're probably not pushing hard enough.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's talk about app.net for a minute. I am absolutely fascinated by this project. I think it is completely under the radar and is going to be a juggernaut. I don't mean to put any added pressure on you about it, but I think that you have the most brilliant idea at the perfect time. Tell the audience, what is app.net? Why did you start it?
So app.net it's the culmination of a lot of ideas I've had, honestly, since the beginning of social. Because I remember going to these conferences, and on stage would be, Abrams and Pincus for Tribe,
right,
and Reed Hoffman,
LinkedIn.
And yeah, like it was like the early
Spoke.
days. Yeah, Spoke was there. Yeah, exactly.
Rise.
Yeah, you remember that stuff.
Sure.
So, and no one knew if social was going to work.
Yes, big question mark.
Remember there was a debate, is there one social graph?
Right.
That doesn't even make sense. They didn't call it graph. Like does everyone eventually meet?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, that was like
are
a
these
debate.
networks going to connect?
Yeah.
Will the tribe.net people ever know the LinkedIn people? And it's like, I think they're the same people.
Yeah,
by the way.
But that was like a debate, okay?
Right.
And
silly debate.
It is. It's
is
funny
the
to
world
think
flat or round?
Yeah, I think we've solved that one. But at the time, it wasn't clear if it was going to work. And so that was also right when Google was taking off 03, 04 with their monetization bit. Right. And so if you think about what you were thinking at that time, there's the siren at noon every day. Anyway, once a week at noon.
Really? What is that?
It's an air raid siren. It's a test.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They do. And then they'll say, this was a test. Sorry to get distracted, but basically, the idea that you would cripple your chances of succeeding by making it paid or having any other business model except a hand-wavy, once we get 10 million users or 100 million users, we'll just sprinkle some Google dust on it.
Yep.
And, here's their CPMs.
Right.
And sounds good.
Right.
And anyone that was in the room behind closed doors that would be like, I don't know if social is going to work.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Is there, and even today, monetization is a fraction of what Google's actually is on a per user basis. I mean, Google has less users than Facebook and makes a magnitude more revenue.
Exactly.
Right.
And so what I'm trying to say is, if I think back to those early days, monetization was intentionally hand wavy because no one actually knew that it was going to work.
Right.
And so the first generation and second generation social networks were all trying to get to basically where Facebook is today, where everyone in the world, like the penetration on a worldwide basis is like huge, right? Where they have like a billion, active monthly users,
800 or something.
I think they hit it's ridiculous the penetration they got. So here we are 10 years later. Oh my God, it worked.
We answered that question.
Yes, and so it did work, and LinkedIn worked, and now all those are big time companies. But anyway, the point is thinking back to those days, everyone was making it up as they went along. And if you remember, where I met you was at some of our dinners, the ad supported businesses dinners that we used to go to.
Right.
And it was the same thing. We're grow. What were we told?
Right.
And no one actually knew if the ad businesses were going to work. They're like, well, here's how you hire your first sales guy. Remember those how-tos we would go to?
Yep.
So it was all predicated on figuring it out later. Okay.
Right.
Well, now here
Leap
we
of
are.
faith, yeah.
It was all leap of faith. So here we are in the future, and it did work. But the business models that were hand wavy, like we had, like, oh, we're going to hire sales guys at Imeem, in practice is much harder than we thought.
Right.
Doing direct ad sales and premium ad units is much harder than we thought.
Right.
And the dream of self-service, simple AdSense, we're going to just replicate the Google model, actually didn't work.
Right.
MySpace was, remember hyper-targeting?
Yeah, MySpace was going to be able to target you people based upon they loved this band.
Yeah. And all, 80 different, we have these data scientists, and there's all this like...
Never happened.
It didn't work, it didn't actually raise their CPMs to a sufficient amount.
It was still garbage CPMs, and it was still terrible click-through.
Exactly. And
Facebook today, terrible click-through, and they're desperately squeezing their advertisers and users to try to make it work.
And I would argue they're the most successful. Like, they are the best. So if you're not Facebook, all the other guys down the chain, they're really... It's hard. And again, I say this from a perspective of someone that built a $2 million a month ad business. I'm not some outsider who doesn't, I've sold ads, and
it's a grind.
It's pretty complex, and there's always downward pressure on CPMs as tech gets better, not upwards pressure, right? Like that's the way the market.
It gets more efficient. There's more
efficiency,
inventory.
Yes.
So therefore, it goes lower and lower, and you just have to. You're in this almost like arms race. Yeah.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Calacanis here, the host of This Week in Startups, and I wanted to tell you about Sourcebits. Sourcebits is the leader in mobile app and cloud and web development and design. They are a design-led engineering team that makes beautiful yet functional apps, and if you're not embracing mobile, you're really missing the boat. Consumers are embracing mobile, and a lot of sites are getting a third to half of their traffic currently from mobile, and that's where consumption is moving. How many times yourself have you been sitting at your computer and looked at a video on your iPad or on your phone? People are embracing mobile in a major way, and the folks at Sourcebits do a great job, such a good job that I'm working with them on the Launch Conferences app in order to do crowdfunding at the Launch Festival, March 4th, 5th, and 6th, live. So when you're in the crowd at the Launch Festival, or if you're at home watching over the live stream, you'll be able to, here's the app, watch the different companies go by on your iPhone or Android or on your mobile device, your tablet, see that, oh, this company light show is on, and that I want to invest in that company, and then pick, okay, I'm going to hit a slider, and I'm going to pick how much money I want to invest in that company, and then that company will get your information. And so we started with mock-ups with them, and then they took these, really ganky-looking mock-ups and talked us through the idea, and we finally figured out, hey, this is how it's going to work. People are going to go in, and they're going to pick. I have a really good screenshot of this. They're going to pick how much they want to invest in a company and at what valuation. And here it is. That's the screen I'm looking for. Right over here. Here it is. And you can see if you're watching this on YouTube or on the video, I can slide back and forth how much I want to invest at Yammer, at what valuation, what ownership I'll have on a percentage basis, just like a little really interesting idea. Well, not only is the Launch Festival using the brains at Sourcebits to make this app, other major companies like Sequoia, Hershey's, Coca-Cola, and GE are using the brains at Sourcebits to make their mobile dreams, vision, strategies a reality. And if you take a meeting with Sourcebits and consider them for what you're doing, you'll get a 15-minute meeting with me. A lot of people have taken me up on that offer, and I keep hearing the same thing from them. The people at Sourcebits are brilliant, they're smart, and they really care about making me successful. So I'm hearing great feedback, which is always good for me because, to be honest, I don't want to read ads and talk and have sponsors on the program that I don't believe in. Sourcebits, I believe in so much that I am an actual customer. So go ahead and email sourcebits at thisweekend.com, sourcebits, B-I-T-S, at thisweekend.com, and you'll get a meeting set up with them, and hey, even myself. So thank at Sourcebits on your Twitter account. Thank you at Sourcebits on your Twitter account. Thank you at Sourcebits on your Twitter account. Thank them on your Twitter account so they know that you care about them sponsoring this very program where we get great entrepreneurs and founders and investors to share how to build these great companies, how to build these great mobile experiences. And it's been a delight working with them, and we're going to have some more moments with them on the program showing us this application as it evolves every couple of weeks. So look forward to that in upcoming episodes of This Week in Startups. Thanks, Sourcebits.
Getting back to what is app.net. So I've known this, I've internalized this a lot, and I'm able to pattern match and see in other businesses when it looks like the squeeze goes on that MySpace went into, like, oh man, we need to up monetization.
Right.
And I remember sitting in conference rooms and we decided, Imeem, to turn off our dev API. I remember us turning off some video features. We did all these things that were not good for users because it hurt our ad business and because we needed to make our numbers. And so now when I look at other businesses, I kind of am, I'm not reading the press release.
It seems to be what Facebook is doing right now at this very moment.
Well, they need to hit their numbers. And so remember, think about what it's like to be in board meetings, and you're like, you got pressure, you got to hit your numbers.
Yep.
You have all this complexity, you just get it done. And so anyway, the app.net inspiration was seeing, oh man, like Twitter's going to nuke their entire dev ecosystem, and it's really going to happen. Wow, this is unprecedented.
And this is the company that, if you said what company was built off of APIs, this would be the number one example.
I agree. And when I think about it, I actually relate to them.
Right.
I don't blame them. I'm not angry at Twitter. I remember being on that side. Like, if I were running their business, if I were Dick, I'd probably do the same thing.
Right.
But it's because they made early decisions on a business model perspective that said, oh, we need to have premium ad units. We need to have consistent ad units to apply across all these different places.
Right.
We need to render the tweets ourselves through Twitter cards so we can put ad units in it. We need rich media ad units. We need video ad units. You know about high CPMs.
Yep.
So all this like Twitter card stuff, that's all about throwing video units on all these things.
And explain what a Twitter card is.
A Twitter card is the way they're mandating that you have to display a tweet, and it's like a widget basically that they can put rich ad units in.
Right. So if you want to show a tweet, you can't just cut and paste it.
Nope, not anymore. They own that.
They own it.
Yep.
They own the license to it exclusively, I guess.
That's how they're. I mean, there's some
legal gray area.
It's a little complex how they define it, but basically you have to use a Twitter card. You can't display it. You can get shut down from the API if you display something.
But as a journalist, I can pull a quote anytime. It's when I want to automate it that I could get in trouble.
I believe that, yes, the recourse is that from an API basis, you have to use cards. I believe that's how it works.
Yeah, and so they're essentially doing things, big picture here, that are not in the best interest of two groups of people, the users and the developers who want to leverage what the users have put into the system. And in essence, Twitter owns nothing. The users own those tweets.
Yes.
So the users have built Twitter. Twitter is now forced to monetize, go public, get a return on all these incredible valuations.
Correct.
And they're shutting down the very tweet decks and
the engine of innovation. Getting back to innovation on MySpace, where is the innovation coming from? I would argue it's come from third-party developers. And I'm sure there's some people with an argument about that.
And that was what the innovation was on MySpace. They couldn't do photo hosting, they couldn't do video hosting, they couldn't do music. You guys did all that work for them.
Remember they blocked Photobuck and then bought Photobuck?
Yes.
Like, I've seen this movie before.
Right.
Where it's like, you buy some, you kill some.
Right.
You hope some go away.
Right. And then you tighten up the rules.
Yes.
And so we don't blame Twitter. We understand it's happening.
It's a business. It's their business. They can do whatever they want because it's their business.
Right, it's a private business.
Yeah,
it's not like this is like the public airwaves. They have there's nothing they're doing that's illegal or even unethical.
Right, it's their business. They can do with it what they will.
But that does create a pent-up demand for an alternative.
Yes.
And the developers have been desperate for an alternative, and users, in fact, have been desperate for an alternative to systems that are just not open and innovative.
Exactly. So my belief is that innovation, technical innovation, and product innovation is what actually has been driving social for the past few years. And that the opportunities being created by the lockdown to do monetization right now are unprecedented.
Right.
And so app.net it's an unbundling. So just talk about unbundling for a second.
Yeah.
Unbundling is the technical innovation pattern where one generation you build the whole thing. The next generation, you split it into companies where we do this and we do that, and the next generation gets unbundled again. So if you think about the PC business, it used to be like IBM built the processors and the operating system, and you would build the whole thing.
The stack, full stack.
All the way up. Yeah. And then the next generation, the operating system is built by this company.
Yeah, Microsoft builds the operating system, Dell and Gateway build the computers.
So you unbundle that.
Right.
That's good for consumers, that drives down prices.
Because you have competition on the operating system, you have competition on the hardware. Yep. We can pick different operating systems, OS2 or Windows.
Exactly. And so we unbundle that. Then you unbundle the third-party app developers on those platforms.
Microsoft
Excel,
Word and Excel, VisiCalc and everything.
And so you see all this unbundling, and every generation of technology, the previous generation that gets disrupted are the people that were doing full stack, and the new like thing that they laugh at first,
Right.
by unbundling actually innovates way faster. And
Right.
so if you look at this innovation cycle, I would argue the same thing with the App Store. Is
Right.
like Apple doesn't build all the apps.
Right.
They're unbundling quite a bit of development that occurs, and that's again, that's enabling
They
innovation.
don't have a social network, for example. They don't have a streaming music service currently.
But they have a lot of best breed stuff on their platform.
But they have a lot of amazing products on their platform. And they actually were the company that contracted and said, let's make the hardware and the software and the app layer, or the app store at least.
Yep.
But they do open up the app store. So
They get the benefits of third-party devs, I would argue.
Right.
So that's why I'm not saying it's like there's obviously ways that they're very locked down.
Right.
I totally agree, and they're not the shining example of doing everything right.
Right.
But imagine if they had to build every app in-house.
yeah, it would very much limit the platform.
Right. And so here we have a social platform.
Right.
Like I would argue Twitter is two things. It is a social platform, and it is the end user thing that you actually use. And,
Right.
and during the early days, the social platform was all that mattered
Right.
because no one used first-party clients. They used third-party clients like
Right.
TweetDeck and
Yeah.
Tweety. Like that was the way you interacted with the
Twitterific.
thing.
Yeah.
The way you interacted with the thing was actually never like they were effectively unbundled, and they've been trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube
Right.
of where,
Very painful.
and they're saying we're going to build every app experience,
Right.
which to me is like, whoa,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, and they need to do that for monetization reasons and simplicity reasons because Facebook is doing that.
Yes.
But you think with app.net you can crack that and just start over again.
So the play here is that
Yeah.
I believe in third-party developers.
Right.
Right.
You
Like
believe
as
in
one who
innovation,
was
yeah.
as a third-party developer, like if I have the financial incentive set up right, and I believe and I have all the infrastructure that I at my disposal, I would be building third-party developer apps on top of this, right? And so if we can create all the correct financial incentives, we won't capture the value that a full stack would get. So that's why I don't think this is like the next Facebook or anything like that. Like that's ridiculous. This is like a smaller,
Right.
like the value of this company is smaller, but because it's letting a lot of the value flow upwards to people building on top of the stack, I would argue that the aggregate size of the ecosystem could be a lot bigger.
Right. So people can buy into it because you've made a commitment that the system will always be friendly to third-party developers. That's like,
We don't have first-party apps at all. So part of what we're, like Fred Wilson had this quote where he was like, someone was challenging him about this on stage a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
He was like, well, guys, if we wanted to have an open API, we would have just never built Twitter.com at all and launched all with third-party devs.
Right.
And he meant to say that as like, ha, ha, ha.
Right.
But like, that's what we did.
right,
Like, we're running the Fred Wilson playbook.
right. Yeah.
So thanks, Fred.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
But you do have a website so people can go, and you did ask people to sign up and pay to join the beta.
yes.
Talk about the crowdfunding effort you did and how that.
So the crowdfunding thing was my attempts to not build something no one wanted. Right.
it.
Again, like because of I've done this a few times, I know that I can fall in love with an idea, and it's not a good idea.
Right. So
Like, and this is something that the whole point of it is that it's dependable and reliable, and that you pay for it. So to build something that doesn't hit critical mass is just a waste of everyone's time.
Right.
And I don't want to waste people's time. That would make me feel terrible.
Right.
Right. Like, oh, we're going to do this app.net thing and sign
Yeah.
up now.
And it's not sustainable.
If we can't gauge demand, then how do I know it won't just like wither up and die in 6 months?
Right.
I can't make that promise.
Right.
So I intentionally, for my own sanity,
Right.
and as well as just because it's what I believe the right thing to do is create a definition of success that if we hit this milestone of this amount of users, this amount of revenue, et cetera, there is a there and we do it. And if we don't, well, thanks everybody.
It's sort of a lean startup, Kickstarter hybrid almost. Like, we have this idea, we think it's valid. Now,
Does anyone
I'm
want it?
challenging you guys to validate it.
Yeah, do you guys want this? Like,
Right.
does the world need this?
Yeah,
Because
and you asked people to give $50 to secure their account for
yes,
the first
for a year. Yep.
And so I did that obviously to get at Jason, and you respected people who had Twitter accounts.
That's
I guess.
correct. Yes,
So
we wanted to not have squatting. It could have gotten weird.
it could have got really weird. And how many people signed up for that, and how much did you wind up raising? And what was the goal?
I think the goal was 10,000 users and $500,000, and we got 12,500 to close, and I think the final number was like 850. I have a screenshot somewhere, and people
Yeah.
wrote about it, but
So-
like it went over the goal.
Well over. So
Yeah.
that's great for you and your board, investors. Everybody's like, oh wow, Dalton's got something.
It works.
There. Yeah, it
and
works.
and that's validation where we know there is a there. And so we can very confidently
Right.
you know,
And so now,
well,
as a product, am I going to eventually be sending my family to app.net to register and then have them pick whatever client they want?
Yeah,
Sort
I
of
mean-
like the early days of Twitter.
yeah, the way to think about it is that app.net is almost your identity provider. Like, we're unbundling. Imagine if Facebook Connect got unbundled.
Right.
Right? Like, okay, this is the thing where I log into sites with it. You know, I have my billing information stored. I have my privacy information stored. I can revoke apps access or add apps. I can find new apps. Like, there's all those pieces.
Bring your friends with you,
Yeah, there's all these great things.
which is a thing that Twitter has seemed to have
Locked
just
down.
locked down and killed in the ecosystem.
That's correct.
This is a real loss. I mean, I used to be able to log into Tumblr and find all my friends, or log into Facebook and find all my
I think they locked down
friends.
Instagram too, didn't they?
Instagram, everything. Used to be able to log in, who are my Twitter friends, and just discover all those people and not have to recreate the graph.
That's great.
You have to recreate the graph now, don't you?
Because that's their that's what they own. Like, in a media business, you own your content. It's like the music business.
Right.
What you own is the content. You don't. It's not a service you're providing. You're monetizing the content that's created. And I would just argue that those are very different business models. In a service provider, you pay for the service and you do with it what you want.
Will you ever have advertising in the service, or is that something that you believe will be handled by the developers on their side?
We'll never have advertising in the service. The idea is developers can choose their own business model. So they can sell their app in the App Store. They could layer charges on top of it. They can give it free.
And so how do
We're
you make
ambivalent.
money off of this?
We are making money from the direct user subscription.
Right.
So the way that we think about this is that at its current scale, the number of people that this appeals to on a consumer level is fairly small.
Right.
And that's frankly to be expected.
At $50 a year.
We dropped the price already. It's $36 a year. So
Right.
because we
Now we're down to
doubled,
$3 a month, right?
and we added a monthly plan. So it's $3 effective. You can also do a monthly plan that's $5 a month.
Right.
Or a year that's 36, which is effectively $3.
Yeah.
And we're going to keep dropping it as it gets bigger and bigger.
Right.
But anyway, the point is, the more apps there are, the more attractive it becomes. And so the innovation of devs, so their financial incentives are to get more people to the platform, because that increases their revenue. And the more different kinds of apps that exist, and this is one of the things that I think people struggle with a lot, is they're like, well, this is a paid Twitter clone, no one wants that. And I'm like, okay, maybe no one wants a clone of what Twitter looks like today.
Right. But what could it look like?
Right. If you look at the things that have shipped, like the Tweetbot guys built NetBot, and Tweetbot is the #1 third-party Twitter client. All the bloggers love it, all of the Apple people love it. So they shipped something for app.net, and it's live in the App Store, and it's exactly the same fit and finish. So if the way you access Twitter today is through Tweetbot, you can download NetBot today and have exactly as polished, as sophisticated, and a high-quality experience as you're going to have from a software perspective as you do on Twitter today. And this project got announced 4 months ago, and we hit funding 3 months ago.
Right. So already you've caught up.
Yes. So effectively, we have, from an API perspective, parity. And we just...
Wow. Kind of mind-blowing.
It is, right?
And that's got to not... I guess it doesn't scare Twitter because they're playing a different game now, which is monetization and being on...
And network effects.
But it must, for the developers over there, be heartbreaking for them to see all the latest stuff that they worked on be just instantly duplicated, instantly caught up.
Well, a lot of what the engineers are working on are related to advertising, frankly. Targeting. I mean, these are very hard problems. I'm not trying to diminish how hard ad targeting is.
So your bet is you charge the users and all this amazing innovation happens and you get the virtuous cycle going.
Yes.
Now, there's a contingent of people who will never have the money to pay for a social network. How do you manage that?
So as the thing reaches more and more scale, I anticipate the price to go down. If it goes to zero, I don't think that would necessarily be a good idea, because then that creates, I don't think people are good or bad. They just have economic incentives to do bad things.
Right.
That's why I personally shut down an API at my previous company.
Right.
It wasn't because I'm oh man, I hate those guys. It was just a financial decision.
Right.
So what I would say though is that you can reach the point where it almost becomes noise from a cost perspective.
Right.
And if you think about, a lot of people have a cell phone plan and they pay for that. A lot of people have internet access. Other things that we use to do computing do cost money for the most part.
And so, but because you have Facebook and Twitter available for free and they already have the network effects, I guess one would argue It's an uphill battle for you, is it not?
This is the crux of the argument.
Right.
If we have a sound business model, it doesn't matter, right?
Why?
Because we can have a fantastic business off 1 million users, 10 million users.
Right.
Like think about how hard an ad business is. Think about those meetings we went to. If we didn't get to 10 million registered or 20 million registered, like if you don't shoot the moon with your ad business, you're dead.
Right.
You don't have a business. Like Chris
But
Dixon
here,
wrote a post about this.
if you get 1 million people to sign up at $5 a month, and you've got a $60 million a year business that costs $10 million to run or $20 million to run,
and we're pumping money into innovation. So this is a bet that it's kind of like, the iPhone had high margins, early computers had high margins, like that. We don't have to reach the level of scale of some of those sites get in order for the innovation engine to get cranking.
So if everybody caught up in 4 months, what could they make in the next 4 months, in the next 4 years, that would just totally outpace Twitter and Facebook?
Right, because everyone's there working on monetization, right?
Wow, it's kind of mind-blowing.
That's the
and this is, and I think on the consumer side, the piece that, I mean, you're talking about making a virtuous system that is not corruptible,
I'm sure.
to use a word, like you're not going to have the focus of the intelligence in the ecosystem on advertising, right? Which in a way is a waste. Like, who is that servicing? It's servicing manipulation of attention of users to sell somebody else's product. Whereas this could be just a beautiful experience, free of advertising, like HBO. Yep. Which happens to be the best television on TV.
Right, and there is a place for network television. And this is why I don't think it's a zero-sum game.
Right.
It's just that there's a place for both. And that I do believe that innovation is the thing that makes things work. And when you stop innovating, that's how you get disrupted. Like in the cycle of technology.
Has really not innovated in their history. They've just copied everybody else's ideas with the exception of maybe the app platform, which seemed to be
I think platform was their kill shot. I think that was the smartest thing they ever did.
But everything else is just a slightly more efficient maybe or better scaled version of what came before it.
I mean, from just an engineering perspective, I'm in awe of what they did over the years to make the thing scale and to keep the site up and be reliable. Like just the game that they brought to the table in 06,
on
07,
a global
08,
basis.
I mean, it was like, wow. I've always been... Like, it's hard for me to say negative
Absolutely
things
impressive,
about what they've done.
Nobody would doubt the scale is just tremendous.
Yep.
But on an innovation level, I mean, it seems like they just, do Q&A 6 months after quarter, a year after, 5 years after Dodgeball, and 3 years after Foursquare, they do Places. It just...
I think they're betting on platform, like comments. Like basically they're betting that you'll use Facebook without going to facebook.com. Right.
Interesting.
And that everywhere you go, Connect comes with you and comment. Like all of their stuff comes with you everywhere. I believe that's the long term.
But their squeeze of people who are investing in the platform has become legendary now. I mean, they screwed over the app developers. First, the app developers, were getting all these free users from posting to the feed. Then they made them pay to post to the feed. Then they made people pay to get likes for their pages. Didn't make them, but they offered that service. Then they duped everybody into putting like buttons on their sites. And now you build up 1 million fans. And in order to reach the 1 million fans, you have to pay them again. It's it's triple taxation. First you pay to get that you paid by the nature of putting the like button on your site. Then you pay to acquire friends or likes. And now to reach those same likes, which you've already paid for twice, with screen real estate and money, you pay again.
I mean...
How stupid are people, Dalton?
Put yourself in their perspective, though. Think about what Wall Street's done to those guys. And again, like I always try to put myself in the shoes of the people. I don't try to just demonize them. So I'm like, if I'm there and I'm looking at that stock price and I'm looking at the revenue growth, this is when you're like, okay, secret plan 14, 15, and 16, go, right? And you start getting a little bit more... I don't know if it's quite desperate. It's more of like things that they would not have done 2 years ago, things that they would not have done.
Zuckerberg has made a total shift from I will not put advertising in the main feed to I will sell anything on the site.
Because what they're doing is the closest thing they could get to AdWords, which is selling visibility. If you think about what AdWords is doing, is you're bidding on visibility in a search result.
Right.
The newsfeed is actually the engine of monetization.
Right.
And they're creating...
Not the sidebar.
Yeah, that's like...
Sidebar's garbage.
So but being able to play games to bid up things on newsfeed, that's the holy grail ad business model. And they have to make it work on mobile. And maybe they will. So again, I'm not saying it won't happen, but
God, how annoying that, knowing that the things I think are content in my feed may or may not have been paid for. Like, it's asked me like 5 or 6 times.
They don't market. That's right. They don't market like Google does.
It's not clear. And like 5 or 6 times I've been asked, would you like to promote this post for $7 to all your followers for $49? And I'm like, it's somebody else's post that they're asking me to pay to re-amplify.
It's free money for them. But who knows how it converts? But think about their perspective.
I actually thought about it because one of them was for gay marriage, and I was like, you know what? I'm very pro gay marriage. I almost thought about maybe I'll amplify this, but I was like, isn't that what the like button's for? And now I don't know in my feed what's paid and what's not. I think that might be illegal if the FTC is listening. Like, shouldn't we know what's amplified and who paid to amplify? It's another question.
I actually don't know. I haven't.
You have become, with your position papers that you wrote about app.net.
Yep.
Would you say you're radioactive? Would you say that people are nervous around you? Would you say that you've made enemies because you've taken a stance against Facebook? You've been critical of Facebook.
I'm sure that there are certain things that I'm not getting invited to or what have you. But on the other, like the other way to think about it though is it's almost worse when you become irrelevant and bland and you stop innovating. Do you know what I mean? Like the way this valley works is like we respect people that say things and believe things and tell the truth. Right. And so one of the reasons...
Do we?
I do. Yeah. I think you do.
I do. But I don't know. Sometimes I wonder.
I think people do.
Sometimes I wonder.
I mean, and so the biggest feedback I had about this whole thing is that I spoke at startup school, like the Y Combinator thing, and Paul Graham invited me. And it was a big deal because, they usually invite all the people that got really rich.
Not just the brilliant people who got their ass kicked.
Yeah, and he booked me. I had the speaking slot after Adam D'Angelo and before Mark Zuckerberg. Right. So I was like booked right there on stage at the highlight of the whole thing. Right. And what he wanted me to do was to tell the truth about what I learned during the music business. Right. And I was really stressed out about it, to be honest with you. And I went out there and it was like, F it, like I'm just going to go tell the truth. And so so I laid it out, and I was expecting to get slammed for that. Right. And shockingly, that was more people remember me for that than anything else that I've ever done in my career.
More so than Imeem.
Yeah.
All that work at Imeem, and now people, because you're a truth seeker and a truth teller, your credibility is through the roof.
Yeah.
So for as many meetings as you lose, you gain more.
Right. Yeah. And so I was rewarded. Like, so people, strangers that I didn't know were like, oh, wow, thanks for doing that. And and people remember me to this day for that. Right. And so to me, that was my little learning experience that if you speak from the heart, it's got to be authentic. You're not bullshitting people. Right. Like nothing I'm doing with app.net. Like I'm not saying, oh, this is definitely going to work, guys, but there's a lot of thinking behind this, and it's an honest to goodness experiment to try to get a different outcome than our current, like, oh, get 1 million users, get 10 million users, hire some ad guys, try to sell as fast as you can before your business craters. Yeah. Like it's like it's
do your secondary.
Yeah. I mean, like we've seen the like.
Yeah.
So this is
the emperor has no clothes.
This is an honest
except
attempt.
in the case of Google.
It's true. So this is a sincere, honest attempt to do something different. Right. And I'm willing to put myself out there because I do believe the things that I'm saying about innovation, about third-party developers.
And you're kind of fearless, which is, I mean, one of the things I like about you, Dalton, I always have, is that I think maybe your experience with Imeem informs your fearlessness. Because it can never be as bad as having to shut down a company and have it all go away overnight. Like, you're playing free. Like, you're free. Like, you've already...
I'm not worried about losing face.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a boxer who gets knocked out, like, just gets pummeled, and he's just like, I've had my ass kicked, but I'm a fighter. I get to 12 rounds, Like, I'm going to do what it takes. You got that heart. I mean, it's really commendable. And the project is so... perfect for this moment in time. And I think what you're doing and what Path are doing is just really looking at the users and saying, what do the users really want? The users don't want Twitter to turn off the API.
Yeah, I don't think that's good for users, no.
And they don't want Facebook to put ads that are hidden in their feed or indiscernible. And they don't, and people who are investing in that ecosystem don't want to feel like they're going to get duped and triple taxed, quadruple taxed, and have the rug pulled out
because
from
the
under
platform
them over and
doesn't know
over.
How they're going to eat because they got to eat too.
Right.
You don't want to be building on a starving platform.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and now they're also in the double trap Facebook because they're public.
Yes.
I mean, how much does that change everything for them?
A lot.
Yeah.
And people are smarter than people. Like, users are smart.
Right.
They're sophisticated, right? Like, time and time again, we've seen people move. They explore alternatives. Like, it's easy to think of them as like, oh, well, we have all the users, we have all the network effects.
Right.
You know, we just need to milk them a little bit.
Right.
I don't know, man. Like, I think people are a lot smarter than they're
They
giving
know
credit
when
for.
they're being squeezed.
Yes.
When the airline starts telling them, like, yeah, we're going to charge you for the soda, we're going to charge you for the extra bag, like, they start to get it and they start to look for that stuff.
Yep.
It may take them a year or two, but so you think, in your mind, Facebook peaked?
No,
Or impossible
I think
to
I'm
tell?
still long Facebook.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere, but
Right.
that doesn't mean there's not room for a lot of innovation.
Right.
Do you know what I'm trying to say? That
Yeah.
like, it's like, here it is, it's standing over here, and it's got enough capital and talent and whatever. It's not going anywhere, and
Right.
the revenues will go up. But okay, great. That's not the end. That's not like the end of the world, and we should all like stop building new software.
And people have given up in a certain extent in social. I mean, they just sort of, Facebook's such a juggernaut that it takes like crazy guys like you and Dave Morin to really say, like, I think I can make a go of this. Like, to get funded in social, how hard is that?
I think it's pretty hard. I mean, it's a fact. I'm sure you've seen it. Facebook apps are tough to get funded right now.
Yeah.
Like the
Why
video
is
social cam thing. Oh, because Open Graph, you can do this.
Yeah.
You can go straight up the hill.
Right.
But then Open Graph can exponentially decrease. Like, they can just turn you off.
Right.
That's a little scary. If you're an investor, like, it's a little scary to know that you can get turned, that you can get goosed. Like, they'll put their thumb on the scale.
Right.
To help you, and take it back off.
Yeah. Oof. If you don't sell to them. If you don't buy ads from them.
Or just arbitrarily, right? I don't think Video and Social Cam was. I don't think there's any bad faith in that. But yeah,
Right.
those guys cratered.
They just decided with Vidi and Social Cam
It wasn't good for users or something, right?
wasn't good for users, therefore we're not going to let them post to the main feeds.
They let them keep posting. It's just you don't see them anymore. Like, remember, this is the thing with EdgeRank, and this is the thing with the newsfeed. Is like, you can post as an API developer. You post it all the time, and it's a black box what decides to show users.
Right. It's almost like SEO in Google.
Yeah.
They get to decide. They keep it opaque, and
now you pay. Like, paying for access is the new thing.
right, just pay to get through that opaqueness.
Yeah.
Which is sort of what Google is saying. Like, yeah, SEO, it's a crapshoot. Maybe you get number 1 ranking. Maybe you get number 100, but there's a sure way to get number 0.
Exactly. And that's it. Like, that's it. That's the insight. Like,
Right.
that's what I think we're seeing happen.
Right.
Is that bidding for newsfeed placement is the closest analog to Google's ad business that we've ever seen.
I just got it.
That's it.
It took me a minute to understand what you were saying, and now I got
Yeah,
it.
no, that's it. Like, that's what they're like. That's the play.
And that's Sheryl Sandberg's influence, having come from Google. She just basically has said the newsfeed is the search result, paying.
So you
to
can get in there
promote.
organically. So organically, get in. If you have
Sure.
high quality content, if you post some cool stuff, cool, you'll get in there anyway.
Right.
And our black box will decide if you get in there. And if you want guaranteed placement, pay.
Wow.
That's it.
Right. So if you want to short circuit it, just go ahead, and we'll just guarantee it. And
Otherwise, it's up to you to create compelling content that our algorithm decides is good.
right. And if you want to talk about our algorithm, we don't really talk about that because it's proprietary.
Yeah.
And if Google, I mean, just taking your thought process, did you ever think like a paid search engine would be a good idea? Like, if I paid $10 a year for a search engine that I knew had no ads and just ranked in a transparent way, would that be?
I think it would have to have enough paying users to justify the cost. You know as well as anyone how much it costs. Yeah. So you'd have to have like 1 million guaranteed paid users. But there are people that are nostalgic from 2001 era Google when there was
Right.
none of that junk all over the place. right?
Rich
Like,
Krenta was doing,
Yeah.
what was the name of his project?
um,
God, it shows you how
Wait, I
hard
know
it
what
is to
it's called.
compete. How come we can't remember it? That's really bad.
and I've used it quite a bit.
And then there's DuckDuckGo.
Yes.
And
which is humming along. It uses the Yahoo API, I believe. So that's
Yahoo
how,
had a gorgeous API. Rich Krenter. It's so crazy. Blecko.
Yep.
That we can't remember what he's working on when he's such a brilliant guy.
Yeah. And it worked really well. I've used it for stuff.
Yeah. It is kind of amazing. And so how sustainable are you right now as a company? How many people do you have? And
The company's 13 employees.
Right.
And yeah, we've got, like, from startup perspective,
Right.
we have infinite time.
right.
Like, you know how
you
this
raised a
works.
ton of money from Andreessen Horowitz. And
We
others.
did an A
Right.
2 years ago, which was 5 million, and
Right.
we just didn't spend it,
Right.
which was clever. Like that was like I've done this one. This is my first rodeo, so I knew that probably should hold on to that cash.
Yeah.
And basically, given the money we're making from our customers, we have, again, like
You basically are profitable, or could be. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
and now
Close
we're
enough, yeah.
playing the experiment. Like what needs to happen is not that we sit here in stasis. We have to let the experiment play out and see innovation occur on the platform,
Right.
which has done a great job so far, but that's the leading indicator of how this is working.
And Twitter has blocked you or stopped you from pulling in my friends list, or what can I do with the sort of interaction between the two services?
I mean, the best thing that I've seen is things like Buffer.
Buffer's amazing.
So you can post to multiple things at once, and that
Right.
works, and they didn't block, obviously that, because that's
They can't block that.
Yeah, that's not, I don't believe that's blockable.
Right.
Who knows, but I don't believe that's blockable.
But they can block you pulling my tweets in.
Yes, which we don't do. And
So
then,
if I wanted to syndicate the other way and just say, I want to install an app that just puts my tweets on app.net.
it doesn't work. They blocked, that's what ifft did. Remember they
Yeah.
blocked ifft?
Yeah.
That was why.
And ifft was so awesome.
Yeah,
Explain what
so
ifft
you can go into ifft. Ifft was a way to, it's like Yahoo Pipes,
Right.
to connect different data sources to each other. So if you want to like archive your Instagram photos to Dropbox,
Right.
you create an ifft recipe. If you want to post an app.net post to Twitter and to Facebook, create an ifft recipe.
Right.
If you there's like 100 different services that are all integrated to it, and you could just
Right.
wire them together in different ways.
And Twitter said, that's a really cool service.
Downloading
Keep
the
us out.
tweets we own. Well, it's just like we own. Like you can post into Twitter, but you can't
Sure.
post out.
Right. Roach Motel. Come in, but we're not going to let you out. And particularly unfair since I own my tweets as @Jason. And
I
this
think
is
so. I don't.
No, I do. I mean, I give them a perpetual license to them
Yep.
or something like that, but I can take them down if I want to. But it's sort of unfair because I wouldn't have signed up for a service that allowed it this way, and they sort of changed it, which I guess is their right, but which is why now I use Buffer
Yep.
as my default posting. I mean, I haven't on mobile switched yet because the Buffer app's not exactly where I want it to be yet.
Sure.
It needs to be a little bit better on mobile, but on the desktop, I'm 100% in on Buffer and done. But why not on the site? I asked you about this. Why not a checkbox on the site where I can just check off some of that Buffer functionality inside of app.net? You just concerned that you don't want to take Buffer's steam?
Yeah, and honestly, like we don't want to be so tightly thought of. Like we want. Like we're at this stage, we're still pretty close to a Twitter-like service.
Right.
And for us to really do what the goal is, like for this experiment to succeed, there needs to be a breaking off point where the things that people post are different, the apps that people use are different, and the user experience is different. Like someone built like a group chat service where you can all watch the same YouTube video at the same time.
Like a Google Hangouts kind of functionality.
Yeah, so a third-party dev built that. Some people built games like lightweight, like a chess game that you can play on top of it. There's all these.
Has anybody built a tool where I can suck all my friendships out of Facebook and invite them to app.net?
Nope,
Yeah.
not yet.
That would be the
People have
ultimate.
built tools to find your Twitter friends, like third parties have, but I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, and that third-party one, you have to like give them access to your Twitter account, and they read like 1,000 an hour or something. It's throttled
Yes.
because Twitter is throttling this issue, right? So they're basically trying to ankle the service or any service from competing with them.
Yep.
Interesting.
And so philosophically, we're just trying to be the platform and really mean it, right? Not just
Right.
have it be lip service.
And you've integrated this into your terms of service. Is there a way for you legally to bind yourself to this concept? Like, hey, like almost put the site in some kind of like what do they call that when rich people put their stuff into?
A trust.
A trust. Like, is there a way for you to like create a trust? Like, this is the trust of app.net, and we're always going to abide by these basic tenets. And
So we have our core values. I've not figured out a legal way. We've actually talked to lawyers to make it where we can't change. Like what we want to create is certain terms as
Right.
being irrevocable.
right.
And I think like we're going to work on that one.
Yeah.
But the idea here is because it's a paid service. Right now on a free service, all you can do is leave.
Oh, you know what? Maybe
With a
you
paid
could-
service, if you cancel your account, like basically
Right.
the financial incentive thing is that like if everyone canceled, like that would
Right.
be really bad. Like
Sure.
let's say I got hit by a truck tomorrow, and evil guy comes and takes it over.
Right.
Right. Let's just play that out.
Right.
Evil guy would the last thing you would want to do
is to rock the boat.
Is make people cancel en masse. Whereas on others, like, new Facebook newsfeed, we're protesting. Well, it's like,
who cares?
What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, there's nothing you can do.
It doesn't affect our bottom line.
You only vote by leaving.
Right.
And not participating.
Right. And so that's, to me, one of the interesting psychological aspects of this is that you always have...
You have customers.
Yeah, and you have a way to leave.
Right.
And like...
Stop paying.
And that's a pretty... Again, like, I'm gone, I get by a truck, evil guy's running it. That seems like a pretty financially motivating factor.
Maybe you could make a board of trustees that manages the terms of service. Like, hey, these are 5 people respected in the community, like a power user, a power journalist, pundit thinker, and 3 developers. And they are counseled, for terms of service changes. And
Interestingly, we have our TOS on GitHub.
Yeah.
And it's open for people to leave comments on already.
Right.
And to submit patches to it.
Wow.
Right?
Submit a patch to terms of service.
No, it's like people have gone through and picked it over. And like developers and members and we've already revved the entire TOS once based upon all the feedback we got. And it's public, it's on GitHub.
Right. See, I think that like you said, no way to know if this is going to work. I got a really good sense that you have a greater than 50% chance of making it work. And I think it's going to change everything. I mean, just because it's been a free advertising-based business forever, I mean, so was television until HBO came out, right?
Right.
And
network television didn't go away, but aren't we glad as consumers that...
And what's the best? I mean, if hands down the Emmys go to... I think that's going to be the analogy. I think you're going to be like the HBO or Showtime. Like, you're going to win all the Emmys. They're going to have more audience.
Yep.
But they're going to do things with their shows that don't have integrity.
Well, and think about it. If you're running a network, you can only put things on network television that advertisers want to advertise against.
Right.
As well as they have to be mainstream enough to run. Like, a lot of shows that run on cable can never run on network.
Yeah, just not viable.
It's just different.
Breaking Bad.
It actually creates different things, right? It's not like, this is the equivalent show on cable and network.
Right.
They actually occupy different spaces.
Yeah, there's no Sopranos or Boardwalk Empire coming to ABC.
Yeah,
if it does, it wouldn't work. And
it would make no economic sense.
And how could you watch it with a commercial break? It'd be terrible. It makes no economic sense. Right, you need a certain level of revenue and artistic freedom to do those kind of a thing. Yeah. Listen, Dalton, this has been an amazing hour, and continued success with it. If people want to participate, what's the best way for people to participate in app.net?
I mean, if you create an account, it's really easy to interact with anyone in the community. Like, one thing that's fun about having it this small is that people can @reply me or my co-founder or anyone else, and everyone responds. Right. And there's a lot of people like @reply you. Like, it's kind of cool because like it's small enough that everyone's actually participating.
Right.
And so that's the easiest way to like talk to me. Like, anytime I've ever done podcasts in the past couple of months, it's cool because I know when the podcasts go out. Because all of a sudden people sign up and like, hey, I just listened to your podcast, Dalton.
Right. Yeah.
Like, how's it going? And I'm like, hey, how's it going?
You won't have a spam problem in the system or like fake account problem because it's too expensive. It's like if sending an email cost a tenth of a penny, which there was a company called Goodmail or something that AOL had. It was a really fascinating concept. It would cost a tenth of a penny to send an email, and everybody's up in arms. That would cost me 7 cents a day. That would cost me $20 a year. I'd be like, yeah, $20 a year to get rid of all your spam.
Yep. Well, everyone would have to adopt that all at once. And so that's why those schemes never worked. But I think in this case, it is an interesting way to prevent some of... And we, Imeem was big enough. We had spam problems. I've fought spam before, and it
never ends.
It's hard.
It never ends.
Well, they get smarter, right? Like, it's an arms race.
Almost like they're deranged, and like it's like a deranged 12-year-old, like, I'm going to light poop on your stoop and you're going to come out and step on it and clean it up, and then I'm going to put shaving cream on your door handle. It's like juvenile almost.
I think some of that way, and some of them are making probably 10 or 20 grand a month.
Oh, and there's that contingent too. Yeah.
Like, I think that's a lot of the Twitter spam problem is people that are making real money. But
really, yeah.
I think
it's amazing to me because I see people like quoting me and retweeting me, and
I know.
Then I look at and I'm like, why is a bikini model quoting me? And then I realized, like, oh, it's not a bikini model quoting you, Jason. I mean, although that would be great. There are spam bots that are using, like, and it's not one bikini model. It's like
100.
It's like 100 different stripper bikini model, like
it's like
car show girls, like, It's pretty crazy, you know, and it's all like torso photos, and I'm just like, how do I get this out? I'm like, I must for sport. I get at least 10 DM spams a day. Did you see yourself in this video? You know, like all this craziness. Then I get at least, you know, a couple of dozen a week of these like, they actually have a name for them on YouTube, which is pretty funny. I think they call them reply girls. And in that case,
those are at least real people though, right?
They were real people, and they go to like Gangnam Style or whatever, and I think they're like model types, and they're wearing low-cut stuff, and they reply to a video, and you watch Gangnam Style, and then you see, oh, you know, a 12-year-old sees like wow, cleavage, beautiful girl. I'll click on that. They click on it, and it's just them.
Right?
But
so you get subscribers on YouTube? Is that the
Well,
point?
I think they get subscribers, and then they get just views.
Yeah.
And so for every 1,000 views, they get $1. If Gangnam Style gets 1 billion views, and they are the #1 comment underneath, so they just immediately comment everything. And so they banned comment girls. But then some comment girls were actually providing interesting value, like actually making intelligent comments. It's the gray stuff that I find interesting, like the quasi.
Well, there's always people that'll push the limits.
Right.
Like they're always, you know, that's the entrepreneurial spirit. Is that there will always be people that try to find right where the line is and try to not cross it.
Everybody follow at Dalton C on Twitter,
Yes.
Or more importantly, go to app.net and open an account if you are a believer in innovation, if you are a believer in freedom, if you're a believer in transparency, if you're a believer in a world not filled with advertising, but maybe great content. I urge you to support this very important product and really project and movement. And Dalton, I really have great respect for you. In terms of entrepreneurs, you may not have the highest net worth, but you have incredibly high worth in my mind for what you've accomplished in your career. So keep going. Don't stop.
Thanks, Jason.
It's great having you on the program.